From outstanding success in the gaming market to over-monetization of their games, multiple failed and delayed projects, plummeting shares, and a growing wave of discontent, Ubisoft has gone from a once prospering giant in the industry to a company teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. In this video, we'll dive into the meteoric rise and the steep fall of one of gaming's biggest names. Now, to understand how a giant like Ubisoft is inching closer and closer to bankruptcy, we first need to look at its history of games. Their first big hit, Rayman, arrived in 1995, and it was just an amazing game. Such a unique style for the time, soundtrack was really good, and it was just a goofy game that didn't take itself too seriously. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and fangirl about this game, but come on, when you finish a level, this happens? How can you not love that? That is just amazing. After this, they went on to release some truly classic titles like Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, and Assassin's Creed. They also acquired the Far Cry franchise shortly after Crytek launched Far Cry 1 and went on to make Far Cry 2 in 2008 and Far Cry 3 in 2012. And in 2013, they released one of my all-time favorite Assassin's Creed games, Black Flag. At this point, Ubisoft was evolving and making mostly bigger and better games. They improved on already great formulas, and you could just sense that real passion was actually behind their projects. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they were perfect back in the day, but mostly when DLC came, it was actual content like map packs or additional story content. Eventually though, things started changing. Drastically. By the mid-2010s, Ubisoft had grown exponentially, and with that growth came a shift in priorities. Players started noticing more frequent releases, recurring formulas, and a newfound love for microtransactions. One of the first major stumbles was Assassin's Creed Unity in 2014. Marketed as the next big evolution for the series, Unity arrived with widespread glitches, terrifying missing face bugs like this, and network issues. In a bid to make amends, Ubisoft offered free DLC and even free games to Season Pass holders, though that gesture came with some legal fine print that felt kind of insincere. Now, in order to actually get a free game, you had to basically forfeit your right to sue them on any grounds relating to the game and the horrendous state that the game launched in. Another game set to release in 2014 after initially being revealed at E3 was Watch Dogs. The game looked amazing in the trailers. Wait, what? This is in real time? Hold up, you can interact with everything? Holy shit, that's so cool. God damn, look at the lighting, look at the population density. This has to be a joke. Yep, it was. It was all a joke. We've all been bamboozled by Ubisoft. I remember buying the DedSec edition because I was so freaking hyped, but to be honest, this is probably one of the biggest factors in why I stopped pre-ordering games and just in general became a lot more skeptical from here on out. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
Their first big free-to-play live service game came in 2014, Ghost Recon Phantoms. The game, formerly known as Ghost Recon Online, was met with a resounding meh. It's okay. It featured over $1,000 worth of DLC, and in 2016, Ubisoft pulled the plug on the whole thing. In 2015, we got Rainbow Six Siege, which was originally supposed to be Rainbow Six Patriots. Patriots was announced in 2011, but quickly fell into development hell. An outdated engine and frequent leadership changes hindered Ubisoft from developing the game. Rainbow Six Siege was released instead, but had similar issues that Watch Dogs had. The trailer was very misleading, graphics and gameplay was not as amazing as advertised, and it was riddled with bugs at launch. Despite its rough launch, it has developed into a massive game today with a large esports scene and is still getting content. The game features two types of currency, Renown, which can be made in-game, and R6 credits, which can be bought for real money. The game has definitely had some rough patches over the years. Take it from me, I have been playing this game for my fair share. But overall, this is still to this day Ubisoft's golden goose. One of their biggest challenges as of today is mostly that content are seemingly getting cut more and more, and the fact that it's just riddled with cheaters. In 2016, Tom Clancy's The Division was released, and it delivered a massive online co-op experience. It was generally an okay game, though it was criticized for its repetitive endgame content and bullet sponge enemies. I mean, come on, how many times do I have to shoot this guy? Over the years, they kept pumping out sequels, and over time, their open world formula, complete with map icons, side quests, and microtransactions, became a staple across multiple franchises. Their games were becoming stale and formulaic. Yes, they sold very well up to this point, but many fans started to express fatigue and criticize the lack of substantial innovation and the increasingly heavy emphasis on paid extras. In 2017, they announced Skull and Bones. The game garnered insane hype, and a lot of people were hoping for a big-scale Black Flag. It was delayed a bunch of times, and finally launched in 2024, long after its initial hype had faded. The game was very underwhelming and felt unfinished, rushed, and uninspired. On top of this, Ubisoft went on to almost taunt players by calling it the first quadruple A game. Another game that's been delayed and delayed again is Beyond Good and Evil 2. It's been teased for over a decade, and it still remains largely elusive, prompting fans to ask if it's really actually happening. To make matters even worse, in 2020, Ubisoft faced serious allegations of workplace misconduct and toxic culture. Several high-level executives departed, but many employees and fans felt that meaningful reform came too little too late. These upheavals not only hurt morale, but also shook investor confidence, contributing to falling share prices and rumors of potential takeovers or restructuring. At this point, it was becoming painfully obvious that Ubisoft had some major problems internally, and on top of that, they delayed Assassin's Creed Shadows again and again. At the time of making this video, the game still hasn't been launched and is set to be released in March of 2025. Even though it hasn't been released yet, it has already been the subject of huge controversies, especially surrounding the inclusion of the Black Samurai Yasuke. The game has been accused of blackwashing Japanese history, and following the fan outrage, the Japanese government is investigating it. With Ubisoft's latest track record, you could argue that they're hesitant to release the game because of all the negative press surrounding it. So at this point, we all really have a good idea of what type of company Ubisoft is starting to morph into. How can they make the company worse? Yeah, you guessed it, NFTs. In late 2021, Ubisoft launched their NFT project, Ubisoft Quartz. It launched in beta for Ghost Recon Breakpoint and featured half-assed efforts like numbered helmets. Luckily, that project didn't really go anywhere, and sales were relatively sparse. And let's also not forget that in late 2024, they quietly, out of nowhere, released a game called Captain Laserhawk the Game. It's basically an NFT game that they didn't advertise, put out no trailers for it or anything. It was just released one day out of the blue. Now, I could make a whole video on this pathetic attempt at milking money from your fanbase, but long story short, it's just a painfully basic and uninspired top-down battle arena shooter that requires an NFT to play. If I were to put my own opinion into this, it basically just feels like a desperate knee-jerk reaction to their growing financial troubles. As if their reputation wasn't bad enough already, they release what appears to be a soulless cash grab of a game. Whoever approved this is obviously painfully out of touch with the gaming market and what fans really want.
For shame!
By now, it's pretty obvious that Ubisoft is in some deep trouble. The question now remains, are they on the brink of collapse? Or can they still rebound? Obviously, things aren't looking very good at the moment, but if they make some changes, there might actually be some time to save them. Now, I'm no expert, so these are just my personal opinions, but here are some things they could do to most likely get them back to how they used to be. The first one is pretty obvious. They have to address the internal culture issues and try to keep their talent on board. They also seriously need to reevaluate their goals and the way that they're monetizing their games. They need to come up with more fair monetization practices and just in general stop alienating their loyal fans. Lastly, they really need to try and innovate more. I think I speak for a lot of people if I say that we don't really need a new Assassin's Creed game every year or every 2 years. But if it takes them 3 years, 4 years, but the gameplay is new and exciting and there's allowed more room for creativity, I honestly think that they could turn things around. Now, there's obviously a lot of stuff I haven't talked about. There's probably also a factor in the fact that Tencent wants to buy Ubisoft, which isn't necessarily a positive thing, but they still have strong franchises like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and the various Tom Clancy games. So, in time, they might be able to actually pull it off. Now, right here at the end, I really want to take the opportunity to thank you so much for watching this video. I put a lot of effort into it, and I hope it shows. Anyways, I'm Rolf, and I hope you have an amazing day.